What did you have during that time that the special operations community would need? Legitly, what did you have?
Well, he won the Kumite.
So
The ultimate hand-to-hand fighter.
I'm just glad you're on our side, kid.
Hey guys, what does a military man, ex-special forces, think about Frank Dux' claims, Frank Dux' military background, and involvement in the covert ops think about Frank Dux? Well, this is an interesting perspective, and this video is not to like make Frank look good or bad. It is what it is. I got somebody from that world who's going to share his insight and give his thoughts about the whole Frank Dux thing. Anyway, if you like this kind of content, please help support the channel. Hit the like button, subscribe. Share the video. Oh, by the way, the guest, Christopher Flynn, make sure to check out our other video where we talk about ninjas, you know, and that whole thing. Like, can you explain how the special operations work? And also, this is in relation to Dux, which, you know, if he's a secret agent or if he was,
Right.
you would think he's like a modern day ninja. But basically, in the case of, you know, Frank Dux, the Marine Corps, what kind of discrepancies are there? Because you don't necessarily believe the Frank Dux secret man stuff
No,
based
the
on what you know in
no.
your history in special forces.
Yeah, anybody that's worth their weight in salt or whatever, yeah, it's absurd. It's crazy. Just the stuff that he comes up with. Number one, he was in the Marine Corps Reserves at the time, from what my understanding is, and I actually wrote down his dates on this paper. So I'm gonna move this over for a second. Let's see here. Dux Marine Corps is 1975 to 1981. Which is interesting and enough because SOCOM itself wasn't invented until 1987, and SOCOM is the top pyramid, part of the pyramid that all special operations kind of falls under. Okay. So you have SOCOM at top, and then you have USASOC, you have MERSOC, and then you have the Air Force counterparts. All the special operations are all listed underneath. I don't want to give you a bunch of acronyms because your audience is not going to know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
So, Special Operations Command is what it is. So you have Special Operations Command at the top. Then underneath the Special Operations Command, every branch of service has their own special operations that falls under SOCOM. So the Navy has theirs, which everybody knows is the SEALs. Mm-hmm. And then you have the Armies, which is the Green Beret, Special Forces. And then you have the Air Force, which is Air Force PJs, Air Force Combat Controllers. So each one of these entities are within each of these components of the military. So Frank Dux' time in the military was a 4-year as a reservist. Okay, that means 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. That's what a reservist is. It's the difference between active duty and reserve. Reserve means you're part-time. You're not a full-time soldier. Active duty, you're a full-time soldier. That means you're waking up every day and you're soldiering it out.
Let me ask you this real quick, Chris.
Sure.
Is it possible that somebody could be a reservist and they could be scooped up, you know, into you know, some kind of other secret operation type things?
Not at the time that Frank Dux was involved with the Marine Corps. No. And the reason why is because for number one, MERSOC didn't even exist. MERSOC started in 2006, I believe, for the Marines. MERSOC is the Special Operations Community of the Marine Corps. It's called MERSOC. So in the MERSOC, you have what's called the Marine Raiders, and then you have Force Recon. Both of those things, and any Marine in the comment section can correct it if I'm wrong. I wasn't a Marine, but I have a general understanding of how it works. So you have the Marine Raiders, which are the ones who do your direct action, kicking in doors, retrieving hostages, da-da-da-da. That's the Marine Raiders. And then underneath that, you have what's called Force Recon, the Force Recon element, which does recce. So they go out and they gather intel. They scope out enemy forces, and they report it back to the chain of command and let them know what's going on. So either one of those schools of special operations has what's called a pipeline of training. That means from the day you start training to the end of the time you finish your training, you're in a pipeline. Okay. And pipelines, I think for us, it was 56 weeks long. So you're talking 3 months of training just to be able to enter into the special operations community Then when you're in the special operations community, there's a whole host of other training that you have to do as well. So your training just doesn't end when you're done your initial entry point. The training continues on. And there's no way feasible that this guy could have done any of this stuff within a 4-year block of time going part-time to the Marine Reserves. It just mathematically does not work out. And there's where the problem is. Not to mention, there's a rank issue as well. A lot of these special operations won't even touch you unless you're at least an E4 or above. I think the average rank for special forces is like E7 to E8. So that's once you get in, which takes years and years and years. So like Mike Glover that I was telling you about, not to plug his name, but he actually runs Fieldcraft Survival, and he was the operations sergeant major for the 3rd Group Special Forces, and he was in for 20 years. And he served with the CIA. He served with he worked with JSOC, worked with the CIA as a contractor. He was deeply embedded in all these things. And he has a podcast that he does through Fieldcraft Survival that anybody can watch, where he breaks down the entirety of his history and background and how all these things work. Not to real detail, but he breaks it down enough that you get a good understanding of how all this stuff actually pans out. And if you weigh that against what Frank is saying, it's not possible. It's just not feasible. So no, to answer your question, you're not going to go into the Marine Corps, into the reserves, finish basic training, go home, sit on your butt into your first drill, go to some drill, and then meet somebody who's going to be like, we want you, and then pull them into some kind of black ops community. And the other part of it is you have to ask yourself, what would Frank Dux have at that time that the black ops community or special operations community would even want? And that's one of the questions that nobody seems to want to ever ask Frank Dux. That would be my first question.
I got to have you debate him on a podcast if you guys are willing to do it.
I'm more than one, because that's my first question to him. What did you have during that time that the special operations community would need? Legitly, what did you have?
Well, he won the Kumite.
So,
the ultimate hand-to-hand fighter.
I'm just glad you're on our side, kid.
Right. So if the CIA, along with special operations, ever needed somebody to go overseas and infiltrate some secret underground tournament, Frank Dux is the one that they would call.
Like Bruce Lee in Enter the Dragon. He's the guy.
Yeah, exactly. How often do you think the United States military is engaged in those kind of activities? How often do you think the United States government is engaged in those type of activities? It's absurd.
It'd make for a great movie, but yeah. So you basically definitely do not think he was ever in any like secret covert operations?
No. Professionally and personally, no.
Let me ask you this. What about, do you think he was ever a contractor for the CIA?
No.
Really? Why not? Not even like after his military time? You don't think they could have picked him up for some other purpose?
No. And the reason why I say that is, again, what does Frank possess that the CIA would want?
Let me ask you this. Now, this is a true story because the guy that told it to me, like, I have no reason to doubt him. And, if he ever wants to talk about it publicly, fine. I'm not going to say the name. But he told me, like, back in the 80s, Dux-Ryu school, they would have Nicaraguan soldiers go there to train. And he said, Frank Dux was amazing, like, with his knife techniques, which he thinks maybe he picked him up as a Marine reservist, or maybe I don't know where he picked him up, but basically he's legitimately teaching Nicaraguan soldiers, knife techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would these guys come to some random dojo in the valley to train with Frank Dux? And I think this was before Bloodsport ever came out, so nobody knew Frank Dux as like, the Kumite champion or anything. Right.
Well, number one, even if let's just say that story is true, it's not that impressive.
Really? No?
No, it's not. And it's not for a variety of reasons. So I'll give an example. Today, right now, this very second, if you wanted to, you could literally call up over to the Special Operations Department at Fort Bragg and offer your services to go over there and train Special Forces soldiers. And they are more than likely going to welcome you with open arms, because that's just the kind of people they are. They always like to bring in new stuff. So if you have something new that you can offer them and you're going to willingly give them whatever education, they're going to take it. So it's not unheard of for people to go over and claim that they taught special operations, taught Navy SEALs, taught Green Berets, taught, Delta Force, taught da. It happens all the time. And that's what I'm telling you. You could do it today. You could literally get up out of your chair right now as we speak, open your car, drive over to Fort Bragg, get a pass to the base, go over to the office, talk to the sergeant major and say, hey, look, I'm a badass. This is what I know. I know da. I'd be interested in showing my stuff to some of your soldiers if you'd let me. And not only would he probably let you do it, he could give you a letter afterwards saying thank you for your time and your assistance and and your contribution to whatever group, third group, for instance. And then you would leave with your little letter in hand, and you can go home, put that on your
I'm going to put it in the bookcase. I'm going to teach them I'm going to teach those guys how to do helicopter kicks.
Yeah, that's what and that's what I'm trying to tell you. So that's how it was. So the martial arts isn't new to the special operations community. Special operations don't use it like that because on a battlefield, when and where are you going to find yourself in a hand-to-hand combat fight? You know what I'm saying? If you're in a hand-to-hand combat fight on a battlefield, you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah, you would
have weapons. You have weapons that you can shoot distance. Just think of like it would be such a waste of time to train somebody in all these different martial arts systems and styles that's going to go out onto a battlefield and get shot by a bullet from 500 meters away. You know what I'm saying? So why would you invest so much energy and time and effort into something that's just not practical?
The government has invested a lot of time and money in you. Uncle Sam can't afford to let you get hurt.
So that takes me all the way back around to the same question. What does Frank possess that any of these people would want whatsoever? Even if he was a good knife fighter. Let's just say he was. Let's say he's the greatest knife fighter on the world. Why the hell would the CIA want a knife fighter?
I don't know why they would, but apparently those Nicaraguan soldiers wanted it. But
he might have been a guest. Frank Dux could have been a guest at whatever this thing was, or he could have just freely offered his services, and they said, "Okay, sure, we'll go." Just like I said, like even an American military would do the same. So,
Let me ask you this. Frank Dux is in the Navy SEALs manual, like his name is in there.
Yeah, but number one, you're saying when people say manuals, people write manuals all the time. If it's not an FM, if it's not a field manual, then it's of no interest to me. If it's not something that was actually written and printed by the Department of the Navy, then it's meaningless.
I think it is in the field manual, though.
I don't think it, from what I understand of it, I haven't seen it, but from what I understand of it, it is not a Navy field manual.
Interesting. I'll send you some more info about it, what he sent me that we could talk about. But
yeah, not to mention, they're not going to have that kind of sort of stuff in there anyway. So just the fact that he's claiming that it just sounds ridiculous in itself. I've read a plethora of field manuals throughout my military time, and none of them have hand-to-hand combat scenarios in it with pictures illustrating no.
I think he taught them
I
think he taught them other techniques. That might have been related to the so-called bullet dodging.
Right.
The concept behind that, which isn't ridiculous if you hear his explanation of it. But
so I brought this out. It's all torn up. Just so this is the skills level that you learned in the infantry. Okay, and inside this book has all the common tasks. Okay, so it's a whole book that shows you all kinds of military stuff that you have to know in order to be productive on the battlefield. Very basic stuff, though. Okay, nowhere in this book and all this is there anything about hand-to-hand combat fighting whatsoever. Fighting with a knife, fighting hand-to-hand, it's not in here. Then on top of it, we have the Special Forces Small Unit Tactics Handbook. Inside of this book, there is nothing about hand-to-hand combat fighting of any sort. It just doesn't. That's what I'm trying. It's so ludicrous to think that you're going to be on a battlefield having a ninja fight with somebody. It's crazy. It's straight up crazy. The military does learn hand-to-hand combat fighting, but it's not a mandatory thing. So like you have like combatives in the Army, for instance. So you have like level 1 through 6, I believe. Which is basically grappling is what it is. It's a mixed martial arts, but it's kind of more geared and designed for the military to use. So you can do that in the military. The special operations community, special forces, they use something called SOCP, which is basically the same thing as combatives, but the only difference is that you're getting back to your weapon as fast as possible. You're not going to get in a long drawn out fisticuff with somebody. You're going to do exactly what you need to do in order to get him to where you need to get him so you can pull your weapon and shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
That's how SOCP works. It's fundamentally getting you back to your weapon as quickly as possible, because you're not going to sit there and have a knife fight. Sure. You're going to pull out your sidearm, you're going to hit him, and that's going to that fight's over. So that's why I say, like, a lot of the stuff Frank Dux claims and says, it doesn't fit into the real life scope, well, reality for that matter. It doesn't fit into reality. It's just not practical. And this sounds like a guy who's never served in a combat unit that's coming up with things that he would think a combat unit would have. And that's how he comes across to me. So when I'm watching him, I'm looking at him as, okay, like for me, I was in the infantry. That was my first MOS, was infantry. And when I listen to him talk, it sounds like what we call him pogues, person other than grunts. He sounds like a pogue. He sounds like somebody that's making up what he thinks that we would learn. And then he's going out and telling people that this is what, in fact, they learn. And it's not.
Interesting. Interesting. I'm going to have to, hopefully Frank will agree to debate you and talk about some of this stuff. That would be amazing.
I would love to debate Frank, because like I would literally tear him through the entire history of everything that he's talking about. It wouldn't end good for him. But, you know, at the end of the day, like I said, I give Frank Dux credit for his contribution to the martial arts. Because without Bloodsport, even though it's a movie and it's kind of minor and people are like, yeah, who gives a crap about a movie? Well, at the time I did, you know, just as you did.
A lot of us did, man.
Right.
A lot of us
so
did.
you can always sit back and, you know, claim, oh, I don't care, Frank Dux, who cares about the Kumite in that movie and da-da-da-da. But that movie did inspire an entire decade, if not a generation of people, to go into the martial arts. So that is something positive that did come out of that. And like I said, by him doing what he did, led me, along with a boatload of other people. I mean, Anthony Cummings has an entire team of people that he's put together to just study nothing but historical ninjutsu, because of people like Frank Dux that came out with these crazy stories.
Interesting. Yeah, sure.
So you know, it's weird, but to be positive with some of it, sometimes, you know, deceitful behaviors can lead to some kind of positive outcomes. So, and that being people taking an initiative to go out and research and figure out things for themselves.
Yeah, it is interesting overall, like the whole thing, because there's a lot of positive that came out of it, you know, whether people believe or don't believe. But overall, like now in 2022, how much do you care? Like, does it bug you that obviously you think Frank's a fraud, just to be clear?
Yeah.
When it comes to like the Kumite, when it comes to secret agent stuff.
A real life Bond. I mean, that must be the most exciting life.
It was quite interesting.
So knowing what you think about Frank, does it bug you that he's still going with the story saying he beat, you know, 327 people as a heavyweight, no holds barred, you know, champion? Like, does that bug you? Does it bug you that he's like, I'm, you know, a special agent? Do you care, or people are pretty divided on this?
I care to the degree that he is spreading disinformation to the masses. So in turn, he's helping create more ignorance is what he's doing. And the special operations community, well, not even just the special operations community, the entire military community, you know, as a whole, you know, you have people that have Jocko Wilkins, he has his own podcast. You have Mike Glover, he has his own podcast. You have what's his name? Kevin Owens, he has his thing. And then you got Sean Ryan, who has his thing. So you have all these people from all these different communities that are all coming out and making legitimate videos, legitimate content for people to watch that are actually interested in pursuing these career fields. And it's helping promote the next generation of people to come and serve their country. So when you have somebody like Frank Dux come along, who's fabricated this whole story, this whole history, it takes away from the people that are actually legit, that are actually out there trying to spread the right information to people. So now you have this guy coming out here trying to act like he's shaking hands with these same people, and he's not even in the same ballpark. You know what I mean? Not to mention, these people have served their country. You know, they've gotten deployed, their friends have gotten killed, some of them have lifelong injuries that they have to deal with. And then you have this guy over here that's coming in and saying I'm a Medal of Honor winner,
which he doesn't even say he's ever said, but there are people that said, no, I heard him say that, you know?
No, it's not even heard. There's videos of him saying it. So he's
really?
on video saying, yes, you can find it on YouTube. Everything that Frank Dux is pretty much it's been put on YouTube. So yeah, you can find it. He said he won the Medal of Honor. He didn't win the Medal of Honor. But the point is you have people out there that legitimately serve their country who have lost, limbs, lost friends. You know what I mean? And then have this guy come along and then bring in all this credit for things that never happened or shit that he never did. It really just makes everybody look bad. I mean, it makes the whole community look bad. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I could definitely see why people have an issue with that.
Yeah, so that part of it, the stolen valor, and I think the director of Bloodsport actually had a fallout with Frank Dux over those things, if I'm not mistaken. The writer or producer or whatever he was.
Well, I know the writer Shelton Lettich did. He's still going after Frank. I'm trying to
in the Marine Corps
between the two guys. You know,
yeah, Shelton Lettich was in the Marines, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was in the Marines, and so was the other guy. They were both Marine Corps guys. And then you have this guy who's coming in here making up all these stories when you have Shelton Lettich, and then I forget the other guy's name.
Louis Esteban.
Yeah, and you have those people who actually served in the Marine Corps, not in the reserves, but actually in the Marines. Mm-hmm. And you have this jackass coming in and trying to do this story. They're going to be pissed. Obviously, they're going to be pissed. I mean, it's stolen valor at its finest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, and that's the part Louis Esteban, is not a fan of. Well, I will say this, man, you're definitely gonna make Alan Goldberg and I'm sure Don Wilson and Sheldon Lettich and a bunch of other guys happy with this video. Not so much Frank, but like I said, I like to get multiple perspectives, and you have a unique background. You're not just some guy I initially thought you were months ago trashing Frank Dux or ninjas. I'm like, okay, this guy's special forces. This guy's lifelong martial artist. This guy went to Japan. This guy, actually can put up an intelligent debate and discussion. So this is definitely worth hearing for the audience.
Yeah. And, just a caveat off of that to your audience, a lot of people think a lot of the YouTubers don't read their comments or pay attention to what the audience says. And this is case in point where you have a YouTuber who actually reads the comments, pays attention, and responded. And look, he got me on the show for my input. So if anything, y'all need to be sharing his content, liking it, subscribing it, putting it out there on blast for all the social media so people can pick up this information, because he has good content. Whether you agree with it or not, he's got good content that's going to educate people masses wise. So please support his channel.